Howdy, folks. So, before we jump into Little Fires Everywhere, I'd like to have us spend a few minutes reviewing the concept of the character arc, and I'd also like to add a little bit to your understanding of this very important idea. So, first of all, a character arc is a term we use to refer to how a character changes over the course of a story. It's all about the character's change, their evolution as a story progresses. Now, very important, most important thing about character arcs. A character arc must be built around a thematic idea. And a quick review from August. A thematic idea is just an abstract concept that a story can be about or that a character changes around. So, for example, Mrs. Sen has a changing and evolving relationship with independence. Right, in that case, her relationship with independence gets worse. So it's kind of a descending character arc. But any story that you build a character arc for, you have to identify the thematic idea that goes with that underlies, that drives the character arc. If you don't have that thematic idea, then your character arc is unfocused. Now, this is the new piece. Not all character arcs have to have the pieces we talked about for Mrs. Sen's character arc. We talked about a character being in a given world, and then they struggle and they respond to it in some way, and there's an effect of that, and then there's another response, and then there's an outcome. And that's a very specific kind of character arc. I like starting with the specific one because it's easier to understand, I think. There's a little bit less freedom, and so it's better for first semester. But second semester, we're going to take away some of that structure, and we're going to be thinking about character arcs that are based simply on the three parts of any story. So the beginning, the middle, and the end of a story. So you just plot some points on a character arc. It's possible that you have more than just those 3 points as well. Right, so for example, you could have 2 middles, right? There's 2 different parts in the story where the character has some moment related to your thematic idea. And you want to have 4 parts: beginning, middle 1, middle 2, end. That's totally fine. You have the right to do that. And you just have to think that through in your own way. All right, let me give you an example of how the beginning, middle, and end character arc works with a very common folk tale, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. So in this case, the thematic topic that brings everything together is going to be honesty. Right, that is a thematic idea. And I'm going to draw a character arc here, like this. Just drawing an arc. Over here, we're going to start with the beginning. Right, and that's where I'll just write a B for beginning. Right, and that's where you have the boy constantly crying wolf just for attention. Right, and then, he gets sort of lightly chided by his parents. Like, hey, that's not a great idea, right? People might not believe you if you call if you call wolf and there's not really a wolf there to eat you, right? You need to save the alarm for when there's really danger. But as the story progresses, so in the middle, this is our M for middle, right? The boy keeps crying wolf. And, despite what his parents said, and, right, he gets more stern warnings. Put an arrow here, more stern warnings. You won't be believed. If you keep doing this, if you keep crying wolf. Right, so, and then, right, you have, at the very end, you have an E for end, and I'm putting our last little dot here. Actually, I suppose, hopefully I do this right, the end should be there. Right, and then you see, like, the boy is actually face to face with a wolf. And he cries wolf. And nobody comes because they know that he's probably just lying. And the boy gets eaten. Sad. So, that's our character arc. You can see how early on he is lying about there being a wolf and getting, and he is told that he really shouldn't do that, where he's being some light guidance. And then, he gets, but he keeps doing it, and so he gets a second, more stern warning, like, hey, you really shouldn't do that. It's dangerous. No one's going to believe you. But then he keeps doing it. He doesn't stop. He still doesn't stop being dishonest. And the result is that he gets eaten. Right. And so you could even talk about how this is symbolic for, the bad things that happen to people who continuously lie and don't start telling the truth even when they realize that it is problematic. Right, and actually, what I just said there is then the thematic message. What is a story trying to say about? What's a story trying to say about this thematic topic? In this case, it would be something like people who are constantly dishonest and don't heed multiple warnings often experience significant negative consequences. In this case, being eaten. But if you think about the real world, the consequences of lying too much aren't usually that you get eaten. They are simply that it has a negative impact on your relationships with other people if they can't trust you. So, and notice here that I've got all three pieces of the arc built into the message. You've got constantly being dishonest, you've got the multiple warnings, that's the middle piece, and you've got the significant negative consequences, that's the end piece, beginning, middle, end. Alright, so that's our character arc. So throughout our reading of Little Fires Everywhere, it's going to be important for you to understand the key events of the story, of course, what happens to whom. There's actually a lot going on in this story, so just making sure you follow what's happening is important. I also, being an English teacher, hope to have you notice some of the ways in which Celeste Ng's telling of the story is particularly compelling and beautiful. That's a little bit less important for English 9A, but I certainly hope that where it happens, where I notice it and point it out to you, that you appreciate it as much as I do. And then, however, right, even though those two things are important, at the very end of the novel, your big assessment will be an essay. That's what we do in English class, in which you choose one of the many important characters. I'm just going to say character here. Choose one character and analyze how that character's arc, beginning, middle, end, or beginning, middle, middle, end, conveys a thematic message. That's where we're going at the end. So I want you to be thinking about this. As I say down here next, from the very beginning of our reading, I want you to be paying attention to the various characters and how they develop, with an eye toward eventually choosing the one character that you find most interesting and want to analyze. All right, that's the character arc.